Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
And today we've got movie club number 9 for you.
Number 9?
The Butterfly Effect. So what we've been doing since 2023 started is every Friday we release a review of an old movie that ideally we haven't seen before, but sometimes one of us has. Just an old movie that's it. That's the only requirement. We have to be interested in watching it. It can't be basically brand new. Just an opportunity for us to kind of get together and pick some older stuff that we're interested in. And for the first time, really, we are specifically choosing a movie that we've all seen. It came out when we were 14 years old or 13, and we are rewatching it, or we rewatched it to see, does it hold up? The Butterfly Effect was a movie that I think, because it came out when we were in middle school, like 7th or 8th grade, I think this was just a movie that we all thought was really cool and really creative when we were younger.
Yeah,
and
we were like, Ashton Kutcher really is a good actor.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I think part of the reason why our generation remembers it is because he plays the lead.
That's part of it for me. But
but anyways,
before we get any further along, we will do spoilers in the second half of the episode. But before that, we'll do a short review with no spoilers, and then we'll give our star ratings just like normal. For those of you who do not know what the Butterfly Effect is about, Adam, would you care to enlighten them?
The Butterfly Effect. Evan Treborn suffers blackouts during significant events of his life. As he grows up, he finds a way to remember those lost memories and a supernatural way to alter his life by reading his journal.
Yes, and before we dig into this one, we normally like to tell people what next week's movie club is right about this time. However, next week we're doing something a little different for the Oscars. We're each going to make some predictions, and then whoever ends up being the most correct is going to pick the following week's movie club movie. So there will be no Movie Club 10 will not be next week. It will be 2 weeks from now. And we don't know what it will be yet, but we'll keep you in the loop, of course.
And we will have an episode on that where we share some of our predictions and just kind of a general Oscar preview, which will come out on the same day that the Movie Club normally does, or right around there. So that'll be fun. So yeah, no Movie Club next week, doing some Oscar stuff. And then, yeah, I like adding some stakes to the predictions. One of us is going to have some power over the other two.
Yeah.
You're all just hoping that I don't win so I can make you watch a musical.
Oh, I know.
No. You're hoping I don't win so I don't make you watch like Velocipaster or something like that.
Oh my God. That would be fascinating.
You're hoping I don't win so I don't make you watch Come and See.
Honestly, this is the time for me because I've been kind of powering through a lot of World War II movies recently. So
yeah. You're already in the zone.
I'm kind of in the zone. But anyway, back to the Butterfly Effect. So Dylan and I were able to rewatch this. Adam wasn't able to get to it, but you've seen it multiple times.
I've seen it a few times back.
So this will be This will be fun to kind of. You'll have your memories, which have not been altered by watching this recently.
They have not been currently tainted. Yeah.
Right. So
also, we watched the director's cut.
Yes, which I had never seen before.
There was a director's cut.
So we'll get into that in the spoiler section, Adam, because the alternate ending is bonkers.
All right.
It's insane. But so this movie, I was blown away by this as a young teen. I think like the sort of high concept of like going back and changing one thing and then like a whole new present with all these different characters. And there's a lot of really dramatic stuff that happens when they're kids. And watching this again, this movie is just tailor-made for teenagers.
Yeah.
Like it moves at a breakneck pace.
So fast.
It takes itself very seriously and it goes all in all the time on this concept. It does not half-ass any measure of this movie. Oftentimes to its detriment. It goes too hard at points. But I really enjoyed this. It definitely gave me that nostalgia feel, and almost to the point where I sort of like didn't even feel like I was watching a movie.
Interesting.
Does that kind of, I don't know. I was just so in the zone with it where I just wasn't thinking the way I normally do during a movie, like in any type of critical sense. I was just kind of enjoying how fast paced this is.
Yeah.
And I think the best parts of this are the blackouts and kind of the way that that's handled with
Yeah, I
his
agree.
journals and being able to like go back and zap himself back into his past self. I think that stuff's done really well. I think a lot of stuff around that is problematic, but there's enough of that where like it never stops. It never really stopped entertaining me.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think they did a really good job of explaining like the rules and the structure of the concept and how it worked and I think that's kind of the key to the whole thing, because it feels like this, like almost every generation kind of has their own time travel movie, and this was kind of like ours, like, and it was like there was like,
You don't
it's
call
like
it Clock Stoppers?
yeah, like it's time travel, but like it's so much, it's so much edgier than Back to the Future, right?
For sure.
It's like, right? And yeah, I agree that it definitely appeals to teenagers. And now at this point in my life, I look and I just feel like everything was just so over the top. Like, I don't know, like, and it's interesting because the first, the movie is like 2 hours long, and it moves at a breakneck pace. And the first 25 minutes are just kind of like laying out all the events that then will be revisited later. And it's just like immediately in those first 25 minutes, there was so many things where I was like, wow, that is a lot. Like the character, so much trauma, a preposterous amount, more than one person could ever endure.
I was just saying,
Like,
do you think it's so much trauma, or is that why our generation feels the way we feel? Like everyone felt like it's trauma all the time.
Well, yeah, or like
we're fucked up.
Yeah, like, all these things totally could happen to one person. And then also is interesting because like in those first 25 minutes, we see these things happen to him as he grows up. And then we see him in college and he still has turned out a somewhat well-adjusted like young man who's like flirting with women, like talking to professors, gets along with his roommate. Like at that point, at like the 20-minute mark, I was like, Evan, like you did it, man. Like you overcame multiple things that you've already done would have messed me up for life, and you seem like a normal college guy, like congratulations. And then he starts tinkering with the past. So I don't know, very interesting. Like it did a good job of establishing like the stakes and kind of like really driving home the idea of one little thing can change like the whole outcome of all these people's lives. So I mean, that was interesting, and like to your point, it always stayed interesting and entertaining.
Yeah, I like your point about it being edgier than Back to the Future, because I think that was definitely part of the draw for 13-year-old Nate.
Oh yeah,
like, ooh, this movie's a little dangerous.
It's dark. It's like this. We've now been introduced to like adult themes and adult like happenings, occurrences, whatever you want to call it, and like there's consequences for your childlike actions. Like
the big scary thing in Back to the Future is like, oh, your parents might not meet, so you might not be born. But like the characters in this get almost fates worse than death usually. Like,
yeah, and it's interesting too that
every sweet escape for poor Lenny in like 2 of these timelines.
Well, I mean, this kind of brings us to, we'll get into the alternate ending later, but that's not far off. So kind of last sort of general thoughts where we can give scores and then get into spoilers, because why not? Because a lot of people have already seen
it's a 20-year-old movie.
Exactly. I really get a kick out of the fact that like, so there are 3 different ages for all of these characters. A little bit when they're like 7, and then they're teenagers, and then they're in their college years. I really got a kick out of the decision to make sure that their hair is always the same in all 3 stages of their life. Like we wouldn't know who they were if like they had a different haircut maybe when they were 13 than they did when they were 7. Like no, it's got to be the same all the way through.
Yep.
And then really, I mean, outside of some stuff that's just way over the top and kind of ridiculous, I think this movie's biggest issue is that it doesn't really have anywhere to go. Like there's no real way to wrap this up that I think that is kind of actually satisfying. I do think like we said, and we'll get into it, the alternate ending is bonkers. I think the regular ending for the movie, which I think I read, the alternate ending was just the ending everywhere except for the US. I don't know if that's true or not.
Because the audience was like, or the people who rate movies were like, no, change it. It's got to be different. It's too much.
Which would shock me. I don't know if that's true. That was just something I read that I thought was kind of funny, but I could see it too.
Remind me what the ending is like when we get.
Yeah,
we'll get into it very shortly. So,
last thing I wanted to say, just so we are going to go into the spoiler section. So if you are someone who has not seen it and you think, all right, this sounds interesting, I guess last thing that I would say about it is that, to your point, Nate, where you were like, it almost felt like you weren't even watching a movie because it was so. I guess for me, I felt that, and just it felt very unique. Like the movie felt like immediately I was like, this is unlike something I've seen in a long time. Like it must have just been the era and the style and just kind of that perfect culmination of things. But this movie has its own vibe that is aggressive and bold and like, so, I think it's worth checking out. Definitely, like, you should see it at some point in your life, just because, oh my goodness.
It is kind of its own thing.
Yeah. All right. Should we get to the stars?
Yeah. And with that, we'll be right back with our star ratings. All right. I'm going to go first because I'm not giving this any star ratings because I didn't get a chance to rewatch it. So right now it lives in my head as a fond memory of a movie that I enjoyed as a child or as a young adolescent. If I had to guess, I probably was thinking it was around like a 3.5 at that point because I thought, well, how cool is it? How cool is the edgy stuff in here? Like, oh my God, if I could change the things about my life, like as a 14-year-old kid, like I thought, how cool would that be? Or why would I change
if you go back
the things
and do
that
that,
change? So
there's a good chance one of us will end up in a mental institution.
Yeah, there's a good chance all of us are dead, to be honest.
So I think just leave us where we are, please.
We're good, man.
Just don't go to Eau Claire. Don't meet. Got it. All right. All right. But yeah, so that's where I'll bet.
I'll go next then. I gave this a 2.5 just because like the script kind of sucks, but it's so entertaining and it just really pulled me in again. I think it's like overall, I think it's an okay movie. But this is the kind of movie that if somebody tells me it's a 1 and somebody else tells me it's a 5, I'm not really gonna like
argue either way.
All numbers for me are acceptable with the butterfly effect
in this range.
Especially because I did enjoy it so much as a kid. So it's hard to like fully tackle that aspect of it. And and just the fact that I was entertained all the way through, I couldn't go lower than a 2.5. But there are some moments that we'll get into that just don't really need to be here.
Over to me. I'm just gonna go slightly higher. I'm gonna give it a 3. I think it is good. I definitely agree. It came down a lot from where I had it from what I remembered from long ago. Because it is a lot. But to your point, it's just very bold and it is intriguing and it's entertaining the whole way through. It never, it's hard to look away. It's one of those where if you have to like, go put some food in or whatever, like you're going to pause it because at the pace that it moves and like the way it kind of draws you into the concept, like you're going to miss something. It was a 3. It's good. I think it's a solid kind of time capsule of a movie.
I think if I saw Ashton Kutcher on the street and I said like, hey man, I really love doing the butterfly effect, I wonder what he would say. I want to know what his reaction would be like. Oh, geez. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I bet after that 70s show, this is probably his second most known role.
You think so?
Probably.
Maybe, probably or maybe the romantic comedy phase that
I'm thinking like The Guardian, or what was that movie where he played Steve Jobs?
Wow, I totally forgot about that movie. Yeah,
I've never even heard of The Guardian. I am checking Letterboxd right now.
Was the
this is his most popular movie on Letterboxd.
Is it really? Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. There you go.
No Strings Attached is number 2, and he was in Vengeance, which is this past summer, which is on Prime right now, which I would definitely recommend checking out. It was cool to see him kind of back in like a good role in a good movie. So now I think we can definitely dive into the spoiler discussion because okay. So Adam, first thing I want to know, what do you remember about the original ending?
About the original ending, I don't remember what the ending is. I do remember certain parts where he's like, he basically just ends up alone. He like can't go after the girl because every time that they're together, it like falls apart or fails or she leaves or something like that. So he basically has to let her go to let her have a happy life. That's like what love is in this universe. Is like he has to just, if he loves her, he's got to let her go. And then like all of his friends stay alive or whatever. But that's basically what I remember.
My memory of it is that he goes back to when they're like 7 and he meets her for the first time and he just says something like really mean to her and then they're not friends. And then I think it goes to the end and him and Lenny, who's played by the kid who played Fulton Reed in the Mighty Ducks movies, by the way. I think they just like go out to the side of the road somewhere with a box and they burn his journals. So I think like those two are friends at the end of the movie, and that's kind of it. So
this one is way different.
This one, okay, Dylan, I need to ask you too, or both of you, is there a scene in like just the regular version, not the director's cut, where he and his mom visit a medium? Or was that scene specifically part of the director's cut?
I don't remember that.
I had no memory of that whatsoever.
Yep,
no, I don't remember that. I remember some of the fucked up stuff that happens, like the M80 and the
I don't remember.
Okay, so then we'll tell Adam what happens in the director's cut here. Okay, so there's an extra scene where he's hanging out with his mom at one of the points when he's kind of doing okay as an adult still, kind of in the middle of the movie. He's made some changes, hasn't made all of them yet. And they go out and have dinner, and then they go visit a medium, and she tells him that he has like, she's going to read his palm, and she says he has no lifeline on his palm and that he shouldn't exist. And then his mom confesses to him that she had 2 stillborns before he was born. Your face is going to get more like that as
Right. So this is kind of this throwaway scene. I even put a little note in my phone. I was like, wow, like great idea to go to a medium when you know your kid is like suffering or like, I don't know. It's just like,
I texted Dylan. I was like, what the fuck is this scene?
I know, like what a terrible idea. But so it lays this groundwork and then we dive back into the time travel stuff. Then later.
Yeah. So then it ends in the same place where he's like in the mental institution. But in this situation, and like, the journals never existed because he had his arms blown off. So then he watches these videos and he goes back. And instead of going back this time to when he was 7, this time he sees a home video of his mom in the hospital, like right before she's about to give birth.
Because his dad, the doctor says like, oh, you're always talking about this journal, but you never had a journal. Your dad was the same way. He always wanted this photo book. He wanted this photo album. So he goes, oh, light bulb. I can use images to do this. So
he uses home movies.
This is gonna be and he knows that his mom brought home movies to the doctor, right, for him to watch because he's in the same.
Oh my god!
So he breaks into the doctor's office, right, and like
this is also the same though from the original movie. Just what he does and where he goes is what's different.
Okay, yeah, you can tell, Nate.
So instead of watching like a home movie of him being like 7 and going back to that part, it's a whole movie of his mom pregnant with him in the hospital, and he zaps himself back like in utero and he strangles himself with the umbilical cord and he never existed.
Oh, that's the end.
Well, and then you get a shot of like how great everybody's life were.
Is okay.
Everyone else had a great life because he never was born.
Yeah, like his mom remarries and has another kid. Yeah, they're very happy. I can't remember what happens with
everyone
the rest
else,
of them. I was just like losing my mind over like what is this,
dude? Dude, whoever wrote this was definitely like a cutter, like an emo kid in high school. Like,
yeah, right. The best thing would be if I just never existed at all. Oh, and it also raises, at least in my mind, raises a fascinating idea that the other 2 stillbirths that his mom had were also the same thing, right? Because this trait. No, think about it, Nate.
Yeah,
this trait that's being passed down from his dad probably it's passed down every time. And so 3 times there's been a person born. They grow up, then they discover this power. They fuck it all up, and then they
just end it. They just go back and end it.
Like the reason I laughed is because I watched a new movie by the guys who made The Endless last night
Mhm.
called
Did watch
Something in
that.
the Dirt,
Okay.
which is basically about like two guys who some weird like metaphysical stuff starts happening in one of their apartments, and then they're like filming it, and it's basically about like QAnon, where they just go down this rabbit hole of like connecting these things that have no connection whatsoever,
Yeah.
and like very conspiracy theory. Like, so when Dylan said like, "Oh, that made me think that like maybe they were all like that," just it's something that one of those characters would have said in the movie that I watched last night.
Would have done.
Mhm.
Well, what's funny
Yeah.
is like I was looking at Ashton Kutcher's like other movies he might be known for. Listed on IMDb are 4 different credits to the Butterfly Effect. There's deleted and alternate scenes, director's cut ending, stalker ending, and happy sappy ending. So
Yeah, I heard
technically
there
there's
were
3 endings
4.
to this movie.
There's 4.
It's
I think they're
4.
all on YouTube. I
What
didn't
the
go and watch.
fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Stalker ending? Oh Jesus.
So I have a question for you guys. Recently we did an episode where we listed our 5 favorite movie couples of all time, and I'm wondering why none of us listed Evan and Kaylee as the most tragic love story ever put to screen.
Yeah, they both suffer a lot, and in the end, it's just decided that they should just have never met, and
Mhm.
he should just have never lived. That is pretty
This is-
tragic.
Basically Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, in like a crazy time travel blender.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Blender is a
Well-
good way to describe this movie. So we need to mention some of the things to jog Adam's memory of just within the first 10 minutes of this movie, there is a father filming a
Yep.
kitty porn.
I
Like
remember
that.
that. I
I
remember,
remember that being in the
scene.
movie.
I remember
I
the
forgot
bully.
how
How
freaking
immediate.
early it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a little
It's
bit
a li-
later for sure then.
It's in the first 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
I remember that. Because I remember him like zapping back to himself and then like yelling at the dad. I remember all of that. And then I remember the bully or his friend, the bully, whatever, that ends up like kidnapping his dog and lighting it on fire. I remember the kid putting the M80 in the mailbox and killing that baby, or disfiguring that mom. A lot of that stuff. Him going into college and his roommate's like a goth dude who like doesn't have friends, and he zaps back and like his ex-goth friend is now like banging the girl that he banging Kaylee, or something
No,
like
that
that.
never
Not quite. You're getting
That
things,
doesn't happen. Okay,
but
No,
he's-
the goth,
there's like
the
sex
goth
going
roommate,
on, and he's something like he's in the corner or something like that.
the goth roommate
Um,
has sex a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
No,
but he's
the
not
other
part of
is when
the four core friends who go through.
Gotcha.
The 4
Gotcha.
core
No,
friends are it's him. It's Josh. Hold on. Josh,
Evan, Kaylee,
or
Andrea, and Lenny.
Evan,
Kaylee, Tommy, and Lenny.
Tommy and Lenny.
Oh, Tommy. And
Tommy
yeah.
is Kaylee's brother.
So one of the alternate futures or whatever, Adam, is when Kaylee and Lenny end up together. That's, I think, what you were
Okay.
thinking of, because that's the
Okay.
one where he blows his arms off trying to
Yep.
Stop
like
the
warn
M80.
them about the mailbox.
But the mailbox, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Also, this is kind of funny, but Evan so Ashton Kutcher's self at 7 is played by Logan Lerman.
Yeah, that's insane, right?
So weird to think
Yeah,
about.
that's
Like,
really weird. Yeah, that's strange.
oh my god.
Yeah. So one of the moments I wanted to talk about, because sometimes he goes back and things happen and it basically makes sense, and then you go forward. When he tries to redo the dead dog, and he gives Lenny like some type of broken hunk of
Shard
metal,
of metal. Yeah.
and tells him to cut the rope. What possible reason? There is no reason. Like Lenny stabbing Tommy in the back,
Yeah.
it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
And that one really bothered me.
Yo, it bothered
was
me
like-
too. And even when Evan was like telling Lenny what he has to do, he kept it so vague. Like, why not just be like, my dog is gonna be in a sack and he's gonna
Yeah.
set on fire if you don't cut the sack open with this knife. Save my dog. That instead
Dramatic
he just
effect
gives him the
killer.
knife and he's like, you're gonna redeem yourself. You'll know when. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like,
Cryptic
Yeah.
teenagers in there.
well, and then
Mhm.
that one for sure, and then also, I mean, I know they tried to make it work, but like the the alternate universe where he ends up where Kaylee's brother is like a stalker and stalking them, and he ends up killing Kaylee's brother like with the baseball bat
I
at
remember
college.
that.
Like, I'm sorry, man, but like that was the one universe that was actually like pretty much good all around, except
Yeah.
for Tommy. And fuck Tommy, because Tommy's evil as hell. At this
They
point, you've
clearly
only
fucked
seen
up,
him
like-
be evil. So it's like, you know, all you have to do is just not commit murder, and then
you're
like
gonna get the girl.
you're gonna get married. You got the love of your life. Like it was just such a like you made it. All you have to do is not do this one terribly dumb decision, and then he does. It's just like, oh god, like
Yeah,
and
but
then
he was
and then we get
frat
really
bro.
dark prison stuff.
Yeah, we do. He was a frat bro prick in that one, though. He wasn't friends with Thumper anymore.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, he wasn't friends with Thumper.
You texted me that your favorite version of him was that outfit he wears when he's a frat bro.
That was
And
just my
I
favorite.
thought-
Yeah, the bright yellow, super like
Yeah.
early 2000s. Like,
Best bit of acting Ashton Kutcher does in the whole movie is when he runs through the Greek alphabet really fast while screaming in the pledge's face. That
Yeah.
was fantastic.
Yeah, I like that too. But yeah, it's just the movie's just so dark. It just always takes it to this level that is just a little bit too far, or feels just a little bit like, oh, like goes from being art to being like, I just don't want to really watch this. Like the
Yeah,
prison
like-
stuff is super dark.
Mhm.
Like obviously the kiddie porn stuff, the alternate universe where Kaylee ends up being a prostitute is like super
remember that
dark.
one.
Like
That
they're
one's
holding
fucked up.
no punches with that scene in her apartment.
Well, then commits
good-
suicide.
Yeah, good lord. Yeah, that too. That's a different one. There's one where she ends up committing suicide, another one where she's a prostitute. Like
That's the same one, I think.
No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. She gets a horrible outcome in two different ones.
Just going back
Lenny
and,
gets
I'm looking at
multiple
pictures
horrible
trying to find
outcomes.
that.
Lenny gets multiple horrible outcomes. Yep.
One,
So does
he
Tommy.
goes crazy and he's in like an asylum, and a different one, he goes like catatonic basically and just makes model planes and can't socialize. So
remember that one.
yeah, it's this is
And then
quite the movie.
Tommy
Guys, this was like the hot event too, because I'm looking at pictures trying to find that outfit you're talking about, and there's like pictures of like Paris Hilton and like Nick Carter at events for this movie. So it must have been like the bee's knees when it came out. It was just like the coolest thing because Ashton Kutcher was in it and stuff.
Tommy is fascinating because he's definitely the villain of the group, and in most of the of the versions, he's the bad guy. But that one version, when he's like a Jehovah's Witness type of, or like Mormon or something, like he's
just very religious.
He's like just really doing well. He's like a nice guy, and he's like just there to help. Like that was very
basically,
interesting that they flipped it that hard.
It had to go poorly for one of them
Every
single iteration.
Yeah.
And it's usually, and that was the only one where it went like really poorly for Ashton Kutcher, because that was when he doesn't have arms.
Yeah.
So the rest of them can be living their best lives.
But you don't get to have arms. Oh, I found a picture of it. Oh my god.
Great, isn't it?
Oh my, he's wearing a white hat with a lime green shirt with orange on the front in the Delta or the Greek letters, and then a bright orange like blazer jacket.
Yellow.
Track jacket. It's like yellow orange, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kaylee's wearing like a neon pink like top.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Have either of you two ever seen the Butterfly Effect 2 or 3?
No.
I haven't either.
I can't imagine there any.
Are they about the two other stillborn kids? That
would be incredible, wouldn't it?
that would.
I'm gonna look it up.
The third one is called Revelations.
Yeah, which is just so over the top.
The second one is just Butterfly Effect 2. These two do not have Ashton Kutcher in them, by the way. And kind of last little, this fun fact, this almost made $100 million. 96.8. Yeah.
Wow.
I can see it.
This is a hot movie.
Yeah, geez. I'm just trying to see if there's any other notes that I took that are just worth mention. Oh, so one thing, it's 55 minutes before we actually get any time traveling.
Wow.
Okay.
That's so much longer than I thought.
Yeah. Like it's like 25 minutes of the setup of all the terrible things that he endures in his life, and then it's 25 more minutes, 30 minutes of like kind of digging into his father's past and like kind of figuring out what he can do. And the first jump is actually 55 minutes in. Also, the way that they showed like the headaches he would get after time traveling, like I thought that was very effective. Like the sound effects, it was like a crunching. It was like a
Yep.
and he was like, "Ugh," and then it's like a crunching noise. Like, oh, that got
And then
me.
his nose bleeds.
And his nose bleeds. That was really well done. Like that. Like
Yeah,
honestly,
I felt that.
see, and I would never. Yeah, and I would never end up that way because I would do that once, and then that would happen to me, and I would be like, I'm never doing this again. That was like, as someone
What's
who
the
gets
first
headaches
one he goes
often,
back to though?
that looks so awful.
Is the first one he goes back to the dog? Is that
No,
when
I think the first new present that he gets, I think, is when he's with Kaylee and he ends up in jail. So you very well might do it again, Dylan, because if that was the first thing that happened and you have the power to go back and hopefully not be in prison.
Well, I'm sorry. I would have just just shown a tiny bit of
No,
restraint and
you're
not
living the
actually
same
committed
life.
murder, and then I'd be
You're-
happily ever after married to the love
You're
of my
living the
life.
same life as Ashton Kutcher in this scenario.
Well, I don't know.
Then you're fucked.
I would have been in prison. And I would have been like, yeah, but if I do it again, I'm gonna get the head crunchy thing, and I'd be like, nah, I guess.
The head crunchy thing.
Place isn't so bad. There's free food.
I guess I'll just stay in this, insanely over the top evil prison. We're like just playing into every stereotype of the early 2000s about prison.
For sure. With that, oh my God, that line. I don't even want to say it on the podcast.
No, we don't need it. It's just
Adam, we'll tell you when we're
and then
here,
did you mention it before we started? Because I thought I heard that.
We did.
Okay,
yeah,
then I heard it.
Yeah. And then last thing is there's a one point where, so at this point he already knows what reading the journal will do, and there's already been one time where he wakes up and basically like his roommate like is like, oh my God, like call 911 because he sees like his nose bleeding and he's just like right. and then the next time we see him, and then like the next time that we see him read the journal, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna time jump. He's just like in the middle of his college campus in the middle of the day under a tree. It's just like, man, like, you know what happens when you do this, right? Like, it's not like you should do it in private or like with doctors around. Like, he's just like middle of the bathroom campus, maybe. Like, I'm gonna cause a scene right now. Like, watch.
You put that guy that died. It doesn't matter because he's not gonna be there when he comes out the other end.
Yeah, but what about the time when he wakes up and his roommate is Thumper or whatever is like, oh my, like the Dubba, because he hadn't changed anything.
It's the same exact time in the same exact year, but he's in a different place because he changed. Just one of the times he changed it, he was just kind of back in that room again. Like, think about it. Like in the one where he's in the prison.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
but also like, then why? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm misremembering it then as to why.
I don't think it doesn't matter where he does it.
Because one time he went to read the journal in his dorm, and then he wakes up in his dorm, and he's still friends with Thumper.
I don't think those were like back to back, or if they were, it's just like the way it happened. He's not like guaranteed to be back in the exact same spot that he was.
I think this movie's real message is that life is pain and you need to suffer in order to become the person you're supposed to be. Or maybe you won't be that, maybe you're not supposed to be that person, but you're going to be anyway.
I think it's
I think it's just trying to be super edgy.
We all would have been better off without Ashton Kutcher, I think.
Also,
does he get angry in this movie? Does he try to yell at anybody? Because the only thing I remember about like Ashton Kutcher in the couple of movies I've seen is like he cannot yell. It's impossible for him to yell. He gets like hoarse and a little bit like that. Like when he tries to yell, his voice like changes and he doesn't really like ever get angry.
I think he pulled off the angry scenes in this.
Okay.
I also have a note that his therapist when he's a kid is just absolutely terrible. Like that therapy session that he has where the therapist just like keeps pushing him and like he's like clearly like having a like physical reaction and his mom is like, oh my god, and the therapist is just like, no, like keep digging, like it's just like, oh my god, dude, like
he's just trying to get answers, Dylan. Leave the man alone.
Terrible. He's lucky he didn't kill him. It's malpractice is what that was. And then a cool shout out to the movie 7.
What?
It's the movie they go see in the theater.
Oh Oh,
so you get
okay.
posters
I
and you
texted you
get
about
scenes of
this.
them watching it in the theater.
Yeah, I was
That all
busy,
happened
dude.
on the same day.
Yeah.
So
Wonder
this
all
is
the things that
one
happened on the
day
same day.
in his life is they blow up that mailbox. Lenny
Mhm.
goes catatonic and they run, and then Lenny gets whisked away in an ambulance.
That's right.
And then the rest of them are just like, we're not going to talk about this anymore. And then his mom shows up and he's like, I blacked out. I don't remember it. And then after that, they go to that therapy session where he like nosebleeds like crazy. He has like a seizure basically. And then after that, his mom just drives the three of them to the movies. And then they go see Seven. He kisses Kaylee, and Tommy sees them and like beats up some like adult.
Oh my god, so aggressively. Yeah, what like
And
almost
then
kills
gives them
this
that
guy.
like
It's a
knowing,
concision.
that like sly knowing grin as he gets like taken away by the police.
Pure
And then his
evil.
mom sees on the news that something happened where a woman and a baby were killed at a mailbox. Like that's all the same day. And the way I didn't notice that before, but you know it is because the
That's
news said that happened earlier today.
That's
yeah.
so insane.
No, it
I
is.
thought-
Tommy
I
goes
thought that this was over the course of like the ensuing
The
weeks.
summer or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
all in like 12 hours.
Yeah,
Not
Tommy
even probably like 8.
Tommy's transformation into like a supervillain of a kid immediately. He sees Evan kiss his sister, and then he's just like he can just like kick the shit out of a guy who's way older than him. And then yeah, like you name it, like as he walks by, just this look that's just like I'm gonna get you, like I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
It's like whoa, like
What the fuck?
I know.
Yeah.
I know puberty is tough, but I never saw a kid flip that hard to just pure evil. Like,
Because he already had it in him, Dylan.
yeah. But yeah, just a fascinating, crazy movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Wow.
it's a fun one to talk about too. I mean, I think that's pretty much all I had.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
I think the last thing I thought was if this was to be made today, I feel like it could be a little more nuanced and probably be a pretty really like a solid time travel movie. Like I like the concept and like I like what they were going for. I just feel like maybe if this was remade or just like if it hadn't been made originally, if we could go back and not let this movie be made, you know, right? Butterfly effect.
I get it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know
Real
if
Sound
Adam
of
got
Thunder
it.
vibes.
But yeah, I feel like this could be a really good movie if it just wasn't so over the top with the darkness all the time.
Yeah, this feels like it was made by people who spent a lot of time listening to Simple Plan and My Chemical Romance.
That's
Like
fair.
just lots of drama.
This is early
And daddy
pop
issues.
punk stuff.
Yeah. Runs the
Real
gamut
emo.
of misery.
Let's see what else these people have made. Oh well, one of the director also made the Final Destination movies.
Oh, that
So
fits for sure.
That fits.
That definitely fits.
Yeah.
And also shout out to Amy Smart, who played Kaylee. I feel like I haven't seen any of her movies in a long time. I kind of forgot that she existed.
Fell off for a little while.
She was,
For
she was
sure.
good.
I mean, Just Friends, I think, was probably her biggest role, or at least the
Mm.
one I know her from the most.
Mhm.
So,
All right. Well, there you go. So yes, next week we will have our Oscar predictions discussion episode, and then we will let you know what the following weeks, the next movie club number 10 will be once we know who won. So here
That
we
should
go.
be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. Nate, is it your turn to put a wrap on the show?
It is.
All right, take it away.
I guess charisma and eyeliner go a long way.